Welcome back to Affiliated, everybody. We've got an awesome guest here I'm excited to introduce. And of course, Kyle Kasech is joining me, Thomas McMahon here from ClickBank. Your lovely co-hosts. We can't claim that too hard, but we'll go with it.
Yeah,
but,
lovely on 50% of that equation. And then just a shorter, like a mutant offspring named Kyle. Hello. So
guys, you both are awesome.
Yeah. And we've got Andrey. Yes, our much more lovely, especially with a great cardigan here if you're watching over on YouTube, from Taboola, Europe. And gosh, he just got back from Affiliate World Asia, where you joined our team over for a co-sponsored party out there and everything. So Andrey, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. So the cardigan is the reason, is really the outcome of me coming back from Bangkok because of the temperature fluctuation. I come from a country which is rather cold. We're used to minus 20, minus 30 degrees when it's winter. But now I'm in London, which puts me at 5 degrees, and Bangkok was 35. So
quite a difference still.
And the cardigan, I'm still adjusting. It's been a couple of days only.
I hear that. I'm drinking tea here just so I can hold a warm cup because, this office I've got does not have the best.
He's got to have hot hands like me, Thomas. Always.
I love it. But Andrey, I'm stoked to chat with you because, gosh, we've been aware of Taboola for a long time. You're one of the biggest native platforms out there in the space, and we've been working with y'all for a better part of this year, kind of get some offers and landers approved on Taboola. We've seen some great traffic running to those. And we're excited to kind of announce some more stuff, probably by the time this podcast goes live, some things that are happening with the ClickBank Taboola side of things. So you're going to see a lot more from ClickBank and Taboola for y'all listening. And what I really want our listeners to get from here is much better understanding of kind of that native landscape, and especially with Taboola, and how they can best work with y'all, whether they're an offer owner who's got a scaled thing going and they want access to different types of traffic, or if you're an affiliate looking to do media buying on something like a Taboola and the kind of ins and outs of it a bit. So excited to dive in. I was curious with you, just to kind of maybe kick things off. Can you just give like an overview of what you do at Taboola and then what Taboola is serving in their market right now?
Sure. Here comes the pitch. So Taboola is a traffic acquisition platform, right? Below the article, massive reach. That's it. We're pretty much the demand side. So people would think, okay, we're the supply side, but in reality, we're the demand side because the demand is demand for products, which consumers can, buy on the internet. And affiliates are sort of acting as middleman between the real supply, which is you guys who bought the product, and us, the demand who, this product is being sold to. So I've been in Taboola for 4.5 years. I've been working on the Eastern European side of things, so working with several markets. And since recently, I've taken on the extremely exciting opportunity to lead the both Eastern European teams and the Israeli teams. But to be more specific, I have a fancy slide for it, but let's keep it for now. So at Taboola, we have a clear separation of tiers. So we have self-service tier, meaning that you're on your own. You're just willing to give it a try to see how native works, how it fits in your marketing mix. And in this case, you typically don't have a personal account manager. So think like you're starting with Google, with Facebook. You just would like to give it a try, give it a taste. Now, once you're ready to get things going and, up your game a little, you may fall in one of the two tiers. So I represent the so-called growth tier or the SMB, mid-market department. So we work with clients who typically have less than 200 people in their organization. So this tends to be more dynamic, more flexible, less stakeholders, less decision makers, relatively proactive approach when it comes to working together. Now, the enterprise is the opposite. It tends to be large agencies, large organizations, both import and export oriented. So these type of guys that, tend to have a lot of stakeholders and decision makers. So the process a little bit slower. So hence they need a different type of support, which we tend to put on the reactive side of things. So I'm on the, as I mentioned, on the growth side, I'm a salesperson, team lead. So my job is to find, on board, educate affiliates. And so I like to think of the job as a consultant. So rather than just saying, buy us because we're awesome, as much as I like the sound of it, it's not
Kyle and I approach sales this very similar way, right? We just want to help you find a better fit for your business. And if we're a great fit, great. We'll scale with
But with that, with that, Andrey, let me pitch you guys a little bit here. Just as I think one thing we talk about,
we can take turns.
Yeah, right. Well, I think one thing that is important to mention is I just think it's really tough in media right now, and paid media. It's gotten really, really challenging. And a lot of people have seen with, the advent of, like, I think the attacks on cookies, the cookie attack out there, like we're all diabetics on the keto diet, like no one wants them. And really you're just seeing these large providers try and restrict their data, which has made things like Facebook media buying expensive and ineffective for a lot of people, and a lot of strategies that, made sense for a lot of people, particularly with entrance into the market coming during the pandemic. They were sitting at home. They're like, sweet, I'm going to make money online since I can't be a bartender anymore. And they saw a lot of success, but most of the strategies don't seem to be working. I only bring that up because the instability of a network like that is probably not going to become more stable over time. In fact, they'll probably become less stable and more expensive, if anything. But when we look at native, particularly the tier one primary best networks like Taboola out there, they're doing a great job with great traffic, great products, which really just great publishers, right? You get so much more stability with understanding how to put something on.
I'll stop it. You'll leave me jobless.
So that's my pitch to people in native. Like right now, if you're sitting here, you're listening, you're thinking, I've heard it, I've seen it. And I think we'll cover some ways that even if you're using native right now, how to use more and be more effective with Taboola. But I think if you're not, you need to listen to this right now, because so many of the woes in your business right now that you're experiencing potentially could be solved, whether it's an affiliate, offer owner, publisher, through native media buying, specifically with one of the best out there like Taboola. So I just want to kind of put that plug out there for something that I've really seen and I think is really important. So yeah, and I guess with that, like I was actually going to say, are there any particular products or things you're seeing right now that are really doing well on your guys' platform?
So there is no easy way there's no short way to answer this question. So there's always
good. Always we got time. You're good.
Great. So there are always evergreen products. So those I've been seeing since I joined back in 2018. These are the products people always need. Like think insurance, right? Like every year is this time of the year again, Q1. People are changing their insurance providers, so you start seeing more lead generation campaigns at this time. It's only natural. The best thing you can do as an affiliate, you can just prepare for this time and keep in mind that, okay, it's Christmas time to switch to listicles. It's Q1 again, so it's the time where people are, going out of New Year resolutions. They would like to go through self-improvement once again. There are lots of promises made on the 31st of December, so we see how they turn out. So people are willing to invest more into products which are health-related. There are switching insurance providers. They may be willing to invest in some last-minute gifts. Q2 is a bit different, so that's something summer-related. Again, you're working for a beach body, how about investing in a yoga mat? So all these things. So they're evergreen. They're seasonal, which sort of intertwine with evergreen. It's important to keep them in mind. There are trendy ones. So for these, it's related to search arbitrage, for instance, right? If someone's running something similar to this, it's the same mentality. Before running for these keywords and just mindlessly copying someone else on the network, do your own research, right? Like that. Start with Google Trends, start with Twitter Trends. Do some homework via SEMrush or SimilarWeb. See what's happening in the market right now. Like there's a recession, outside my window. Well, not just outside my window, in my flat as well. I'm paying like 3 times more for electricity in London. That's crazy. So I happen to live in a new build, so I'm on the luckier side of things. Let's say someone lives in a typical Victorian conversion. So what they want to do? They want to do the isolation, so it's warmer inside. So what do you sell and offer to these people? You need to offer them, lead generation campaigns, so they could buy solar. When the summer or more sunnier time comes, isolation, make their homes warmer. So you need to be relevant, very trend oriented. Hence, trendy products. And now, finally, you have one-offs, or so-called, we call them wow products. When you're like, wow, I want this right now. And then you buy it, and then you instantly regret it. But well, it's too late now. You paid for these clicks.
What I was curious to go back to your tiers really quick. What are those segmented by ad spend on Taboola?
as in
Like,
verticals.
sorry, when you go into the tiers you've got, so you've got like the self-service tier, the SMB, and like the enterprise. Are those segmented based on like how much you're spending on Taboola on a given
Yeah,
time
that's
period?
sort of
Or?
a rule of the thumb.
Mhm.
Obviously, it varies from market to market. So I would say typically someone starts on self-service, and then you start seeing that they have some potential, and even though they haven't spent this, let's say, certain amount of the agreed amount of
Sure.
time, I don't want to throw numbers out there because my colleagues will be like, no, Andre, it's much lower, what are you saying? Or higher. But like, let's say they're not even close to crossing this number, but we see there's potential because sometimes, especially with experience, you see a product and you're like, that's an instant fit. I don't know if you need to see it spend 1 million on Taboola to say, yeah, okay, now I see it works. No, you see 5K spent, maybe like, okay, like even, let's say, even if you're not breaking even, but you see the trajectory of improvement, you'll be like, all right, in another week or two, you'll definitely break even, and then you'll be able to scale. And you just need this extra nudge, extra bit of support to get things going in the right direction.
That makes sense. Yeah. And then I was curious on like, to me, Taboola has always been known for being one of the most compliant kind of networks to run on, meaning like
Mhm.
the sales copy is more reviewed, right? The ads are more reviewed, the products are more reviewed. Can you speak to that process a little bit if you're getting a campaign going on Taboola?
Yeah, so the baseline is we're not automated, which is a good thing and a bad thing at the same time because if you automate it, you scale faster. Sometimes advertisers were relying on multiple campaigns versus so that's called horizontal scaling, right? When you're creating multiple identical campaigns with small daily budget. So that's something what advertisers do when they would like to take benefit of expedited learning. So for the first 2 days, your campaign is really boosted across all the publishers, so you get the data faster. So sometimes advertisers create like a bunch of identical campaigns, and they create lots of small approved lists, and then they combine them into one big one, and then this is the time where you start running a proper campaign. So that's horizontal scaling. And sometimes you do get, just vertical scaling when you have one campaign and you try to squeeze as much as possible from it. Now, usually, with automated, obviously, it's much faster. We're manual, and the reason for this is because we have to be compliant with local regulations, which are shared by our great publisher partners. So let's take Nutra example. It needs to be FDA approved if you're running in the states. There needs to be some clinical trials, and that's the fantastic amount of work you guys did, and our team did, making sure that we whitelisted quite a few landing pages and products, and it was quite a process. But eventually,
Hmm.
they've come up with a list of things which are fully approved, so you can even run stuff which you would normally think, oh, it's impossible to push into Google. Like, why would you run men's health? Yeah, it's possible, especially if it's FDA approved. Like, no problem, it's a great product. So it takes time. But once you get pre-approved, this is partially my job or my team's job.
Gotcha.
You should be running no problem. Your moderation process will take you a couple of hours. Now, if you're just on self-service, you don't have anyone supporting you. Yeah, it may take a day or two, and you may get rejected without any profound reason. So this is where the things may be a little bit slower, but eventually you'll get there.
Is there resources on Taboola's side for like this is what a type of page should look like, or this is what we kind of need to see?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's plenty of information available on our help center page.
Okay.
Additionally, we have a lot of PDF sources, which are again more in the managed service, but some growth. But that's the part of the added value that we give, because sometimes people say, "Oh, we've been running Taboola for years. Like, why would we need a personal account manager?" And I say, "Well, because we're constantly evolving. We're
Hmm.
always putting together new materials to make sure that we're still relevant, even for you, someone who's got certainly more experience than some of us internally do." So we have PDFs, we have lots of materials, lots of collateral ready to share, and most importantly, we have stuff on the website ready to go.
Okay, we'll get some of those links and resources from you or your team, so we can share those in the show notes of this. Because yeah, I was curious. Like I noticed that when we're going through some of those approval processes for the different sellers, landers, we're getting whitelisted with y'all. It was like things like pretty basic things, but sometimes it's like, oh yeah, we need video speed controls on this lander
Mhm.
for the, if it's a VSL, you need to show that it's the advertisement banner on the top of the page. These things that direct response marketers are probably gonna be like, no, I don't want to do that. I need to control and like gate everything. But I imagine from your point of view, the
They
publisher
need to
needs that good
they
user
need to take it
experience.
from a different standpoint, because they come from the experience of working with other traffic sources, and they'll be like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but this is allowed on A or this is allowed on B. Sure, but the reason this is not allowed on Taboola is because all these publishers that we're working with, they've collected so much data and so much customer feedback, which is the real statistics. And people say, like, you know what? I don't like the content which you guys show. I don't like the videos which I can't, put forward. I can't, put on, do the videos that, for instance, launch with the sound on. They're extremely intrusive, and they're
Mm-hmm.
annoying. So I don't want to see them. So the publisher comes to us and says, guys, we need to update and amend the rules a little bit. And in the long term, that's great because we're creating more quality content, which people are more receptive to, and they would be more inclined to interact with it. And in the end, that results in higher conversion rates. So it's a win-win, really.
Well, and plus, I think one thing I mentioned, since it's your compliance standards, it's a level playing field, right? It's not like you're going to have to be against other advertisers that are
Mm-hmm.
using those tactics. So, at the end of the day, you might be a fan of steroids in baseball, but as long as no one's on steroids in baseball, like it's fine, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, as long as it's an even level playing field, which you guys make sure that it is. I do find that interesting that lots of those decisions are based on data, because I think that's kind of compelling, right? Like lots of us assume this increases conversions, but at what cost? And if that cost might be something where it's not actually increasing long-term conversions, it's
Mm-hmm.
decreasing them and definitely lowering LTV by having some of those measures in there. I find that really interesting for sure.
Yeah, like Kyle, think in these terms. For instance, you get someone coming up with extremely clickable banners.
Mm-hmm.
So they anticipate extremely high CTR, which would naturally help them decrease their CPC. And then suddenly their campaign gets rejected. They'll be like, why? I want my high VCTR back.
Mm-hmm.
But CTR is just one of the few important components, because high CTR only gives you an opportunity to be positioned higher in the feed. So clickability and the chances that people will notice you are higher. But what's the post-click performance like? Do people convert? Do they interact with the content? Is there a match between the problem presented in the banner and the one that's explained in the content? So if there is a good match, if there is interest, if people actually spend, if there's like low bounce rate, if people spend time on content and then they engage with it and they actually buy the product, that means you've created the perfect funnel.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like, in a way, that prevents marketers from themselves and advertisers from themselves, right? Like, I have great CTR. Well, yeah, because you're getting a bunch of people to click to something they don't even like, and it's a disparate experience. So if
They're,
your clicks are
interest-based clicks.
empty,
They're not intent-based clicks, right? It's like,
yeah. So a bunch of
mm-hmm.
empty clicks probably is not good for your business,
Mm-hmm.
holistically. And you
Mm-hmm.
guys are doing things to measure against that and prevent against that. Will might seem frustrating in the short run to someone that's used to something else. I really like hearing that it's actually quite beneficial for you, but it's going to challenge you to be a holistic marketer,
Mm-hmm.
holistically looking at your funnel, not just looking at a KPI. Which again, I'm a huge fan of personally,
Mm-hmm.
even though it could be easier and more attractive to maybe highlight one specific metric instead of look at things as a holistic marketer. But that keeps the health of Taboola being an amazing network for, year after year after year with the top publishers, because they know they're attracting a holistic marketer and a great experience for the buyer.
What are some of the KPIs that your better clients are focusing in on when they're maybe at the start of a campaign and then as they start to scale a campaign? Because I imagine they might shift a bit if they're looking to get a banner that's performing well versus something that's scaling higher.
Well, that depends on the vertical.
Mm-hmm.
If it's content arbitrage, there are guys who are being extremely holistic and they would be like, is it okay if I talk about different verticals, not just affiliate marketing, or do you want it to be more
Sure.
specific?
Yeah. Then we can talk different. Yeah. I guess, as you know, most of our listeners here are going to be more in the performance marketer space, focusing on a straight sale kind of funnel, right? Kind of maybe
Fine.
e-com's probably the bad example of the term there, but they're going to get a cart checkout is what they're trying to get.
I'm not forgetting myself. I need to be more specific, but briefly, content arbitrage. Some people look
Mm-hmm.
at RPCs. which is totally fine. Some people look at the session depth. Some people look at the not just the revenue per customer, but they look at number of pages people visit. The time spent on site, the bounce rate, all these things. And the same for straight sale, affiliate marketing. Like the foundation is, what's my CPA? Like I'm paid CPA $25 and my CPA on Taboola is 24. Great, let's scale this to 10K per day. Amazing, I'll be making a lot of money, right? But that's just the baseline. Because what you can do, what you can explore, is you can implement, and I'm just taking from the top of my head, you can implement a program your pixel for time and collect the data on how much time the user spent interacting with the content. So you split test and see, you're not just, again, copying someone's content. You're actually split testing, seeing, okay, let's try 500 words. Let's try 300 words. Let's try more pictures. And surely that's a lot more money. But I like to think of this as an investment. So yeah, there are performance marketers who don't have, what's the expression for this? We don't have super deep pockets. And that's totally okay to have a, strong focus. But if you're looking for a proper diversification, which is quite typical for large advertisers, they're spending 1 million per month on TikTok, or they're spending 1 million per month on Facebook. And my job here is not trying to convince them to do otherwise. My job is to say, guys, do you want to have a more diversified marketing mix? Let's start small, but let's try different approaches. Find the one that works well for you on Taboola. And eventually, there's no need to take the budget from TikTok. Maybe eventually you'll see that how well it's performing on Taboola, and we'll find a different source of revenue for it. But the point is not just to copy, but try multiple approaches. Not recycle someone else's approach, but find your own path.
Yeah, I saw Stefan Georgi speak to something, one of his TikToks, I think, right? He was talking, it's like, you want to funnel hack the strategy, or you want to funnel hack kind of the idea, not so much the actual content, not one-to-one, right? Like what's working.
I think it's inspiration versus hacking. Oftentimes hacking makes people think it's unlocking the source code to replicate it over and over and over again. But it's like, no, be inspired by the behavioral mechanics of marketing and what they're trying to do. I try to tell people that all the time. And they're like, oh, how do you learn stuff in marketing? I was like, see what people do and go, why do they do that? Why would they do it that way? What are the behavioral things they're trying to do for their product? And that's how you start replicating, not tactics, but strategies. So I actually had a kind of a question I wanted to bring up for you, Andrey, real fast. I don't know, I'm holding my face so weird to ask it, but I had a really interesting conversation with a YouTube media buyer, and they had referenced that they actually correlate a lot of the success in the strategies in YouTube to native, meaning that they kind of said, hey, if you have a product that's doing well on YouTube and you're not advertising it to native, you're really missing a huge opportunity. So I was curious, that was his perspective. I'm curious on when you hear someone say that, do you feel like if someone's doing well on YouTube, native should be a natural source for them to translate in terms of the way the marketing kind of looks? Just curious on what your thoughts are with that.
That's an interesting perspective, certainly. I wouldn't necessarily say that there is a direct connection. Like I know at least two guys who are being extremely successful with YouTube ads, and they're also running on Taboola. I think if you have the right mindset, I think if you're naturally curious and if you're willing to work hard, roll up your sleeves, regardless of which traffic source. Sorry, I'm saying such banal things. I probably should write
well, but actually, let me see if this would help, Andrey. So I should provide some more context. I asked a bad question, not your thing. So he specifically mentioned one of the reasons why is a lot of YouTube ads that do very well are based on curiosity and information, right? So if I have a curiosity mindset, so now that it does seem like curiosity and curiosity marketing funnels really lend themselves well to native because it's like, oh, here's a curious thing. Let me read more about that. Next thing you know, you read more and now you're like, wow, I'm being sold without being aware of it. So I think YouTube's very similar in that. So I should have added some more context. So with that information,
I should have asked about what kind of products he's running. But with YouTube, I remember it was like a year ago. I don't see these ads anymore. It's not something that I I'm researching, but I used to see them quite often. There'll be a guy saying like, if you give me 5 seconds, I'll tell you how to make $1 million. And this approach is about time's money, and on the internet, marketers, they're really competing for time, because inventory, you can grow your inventory. Right? You talked earlier about how the CPCs are growing. That's natural, because the inventory for certain platforms isn't growing; it's actually deflating. So you would actually have the same amount of competition for the same inventory. So you would need to compete, be more competitive. And if you're breached your ceiling with the CTR, like you would need to compensate with high CPCs to remain with the same CPMs. Now, with native, I would say it's never ending, because there's an endless competition between large publishers. Large native platforms for large publishers, and there's always new websites which are being created every single day. So if they hit a certain threshold of quality standard, right, you can easily work with them. So with YouTube, I see where it's coming from. I think native does indeed have a similar funnel when it comes to presenting an immediate problem. So like, guys, 10,000 guys in your area, 10,000 men in your area are choosing this amazing phone, like product placement. I'm not paid for this. Like amazing phone. So 10,000 guys in your area choose this amazing phone. Check it out right now. Like, I'm presented with a problem, and I'm keen to investigate a potential solution. So if you were to say buy it right now, I wouldn't, because why would I buy it? Like, I'm not in the mood for buying phones. I was just reading news about political situation in the UK. Like, why would I buy a phone, especially if it's expensive? But now, if you're compelling me to read it with some great content, like I click on it, and immediately I'm presented with a solution. And once I finish reading, the solution comes, with a decent discount. Let's say, just for you and just today, 15% discount for this phone. And I believe this might be something that the guy you're mentioning, he means, is the fact that right in the face problem, guys. There is a problem, but don't worry, we got you covered. There is a solution. We're gonna sell it to you, and we're gonna sell it to you cheap. So
Nice.
I suppose this could be the funnel.
Yeah. No, I think that makes sense. I think a lot of it too is I imagine people that go to YouTube are very similar to the audience that's consuming native ads, because why are they going to publishers, right? To be informed or entertained in some capacity, but they're probably not there to be sold. So when you have like problem, I either when I'm being entertained, I'm trying to forget about my problems or look in a different way, and if I'm educated, I'm trying to learn more about them, right? So it seems like it's a good inflection point. I really like that idea of like, you have to bring them on something that's like, I'm not going to sell you, but here's a problem presented away. Like, what if it's like 10,000 men in your area are finding more dates because of this phone? If I was a single lonely guy and I was like, well, dang, I definitely need that. Like, let me go read how this phone's doing that. Right. And next thing you know, you go from being sad about the world to buying a phone so you could get a date, right? So I think that would be kind of an interesting concept. By the way, I am not saying that is a pitch of any phone, but just throwing it out there. I don't know why. No, that's interesting though. I kind of like hearing more about that and that concept for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's important to keep in mind that we can't. I mentioned this. We can't keep reciting the same approaches. Like, even if we're doing YouTube ads, we need to be more creative. And on YouTube, I have no idea. Like, I would need to look at the numbers, but how many people are doing YouTube Premium? Like, I'm on YouTube Premium. I don't see ads anymore. Sometimes, I log out just to check what kind of ads are running. So it's professional interest, but like, I don't see ads anymore. So I only see influencers, and I'm thinking, okay, it's something that makes me more receptive, because I see so many ads, and I'm sure even people who are not with professional industry, they see so many ads, so they are repelled by them, or they could be repelled by them. And if it's an influencer who's more trustworthy, they'd be more inclined to buy. But this is where you need to get creative. You can't just pay someone, say this phone is awesome. You need to encourage them to create a good storyline, so people actually find it believable and could relate to it. So I suppose native is quite similar. Right time, right place, right approach, believable, trustworthy.
Now, you mentioned something when we were talking about that earlier that I thought was really, it made me think of a lot of things. But you mentioned, when you were talking about native as a traffic channel and the fact that the inventory isn't fixed and it's growing at all
Mm.
times, right? With new websites, or the fact that, publishers are constantly competing for eyeballs and content.
Mhm.
So they are just in an arms race to produce the best clicks and more and more and more of that for you, if you're advertising that. So the question I was kind of asking is, like, just to give kind of some numbers. Do you have an idea, like, on average, how many new publishers do you guys bring on, like on a monthly basis or within a quarter, or like new websites? And I guess the flip side is, like, what's the count of, if you could share, like, maybe the range of publishers you actively have on the platform right now?
It's a great question. I wish I knew the answer. So, I mean, if I dig deeper, I'm sure I'd be able to find the answer. It's not that difficult to find, like just running a couple of reports. I think the real question here is whether we're growing and where we're growing. And
Hmm.
you can go for quantity, like you can be a network that aggregates thousands and thousands of publishers, and hence the word, hence the term whitelist. Someone comes and says, guys, I know you have 50,000 publishers. I don't care. I need you to whitelist me just 100, which are the biggest ones and most relevant for my mobile phone product,
Hmm.
right? And we're working with 9,000 publishers, or so does our marketing say. Like I would need to double check how many publishers we have. But like it's all about the big ones, and it's all about the big ones that convert well.
Hmm.
Because sometimes you have a massive news outlet, but the audience that's reading it is just not receptive to ads, because the type of especially if it's thematic, it's very business oriented, and these people have certain income, they have certain profession, they have certain interests, and they're more naturally inclined towards particular political stance.
Hmm.
Hence, there is no point trying to sell them stuff which they would not naturally invest in.
Hmm.
So you would need to keep this in mind, and hence optimization. Like, yeah, for sure, there are lots of overlaps between the publishers, but you will see that, for instance, certain outlets in the UK convert well for e-commerce, and certain for betting, and certain for content arbitrage because of the different type of audiences.
Can
So, yeah, sorry, Thomas.
Yeah, I think you're kind of heading there, but can you speak to like the targeting you can do on Taboola if when you're taking ad spots? Either, yeah, just how does that work with Taboola?
So there are multiple. So I would say it's sort of like a tree-like structure. So the baseline, the stem, is behavior targeting. So we touched upon cookies. So the behavior targeting, it works based on three components. The first one being contexts. So think in terms of, we work with publishers, we're hard-coded on their websites. We see where the users are, like where you get the understanding of how much time they're spending on which contexts. We're seeing what they're clicking on. We have 500 million audience clicking on the.
Is context, is that like interest?
Yeah, so it's interest, because like if someone's spending time on sports,
Hmm.
it makes more sense to try to show them betting or gambling, for instance, or
Hmm.
sportswear. Who knows? Like, so contexts, clicks, and cookies. So clicks, 500 million audience clicking on ads or recommendations, because we're first and foremost a recommendation platform. So we have editorial and ads. So behavior algorithm, that is sort of run-off network. So if someone starts their campaign, they would start with run-off network, targeting all the websites. And this is the basic recommendation. We usually say, guys, run on all the websites, rely on high VCPM. Once you get to high VCPM, you'll be able to collect enough data per publisher and make a data-driven decision which publishers to switch off and switch on. Now,
Yeah, glad you said that. That's something I've seen across all the big networks now. It's like it used to be that you could get super exact targeting, right? I want to target this type of person, this type of place, to doing this type of thing and this interest. And it seems like people have gone much more with, as third-party data has gone away, they've had to go much more broad and then refine, right? And let the ad and the creatives help segment.
this approach is great for restricted inventory, or we call them walled gardens. Like when you have Facebook, you have TikTok that make you register. They have lots of data on you, so it makes only sense to leverage this data because someone registered, you know everything about them. And the intent is different. Like I'm scrolling on my phone, have a bunch of recommendations. I'm used to the fact I'm getting recommendations which are targeted towards me specifically. So I'm in this state of mind. But when I'm on the internet, I'm not expecting someone to be targeted towards me, hence the funnel, which is problem versus solution. And you're starting very broad, but once you collect enough data, you'll be able to see which contexts and which demographies your clicks contribute to. So first you collect the data and then you see which demographies are performing better. Like let's say you come with, with an idea that the product you're selling is going to perform better with women. Let's say International Women's Day, right? So you would think, okay, I need to target women. No, maybe you'll discover that on this particular source, you should target men who would be buying gifts for women, or I don't know, women buying gifts for women. There are multiple approaches, but what I'm saying is it's important to be open-minded and making a decision based on the data. So don't come with assumptions that you know your customer. Taboola is about content recommendation and content discovery. So discover your new audience. I'm being very motivational.
Yeah. No, I think it's great, and you'd be amazed. Like I just had a friend that's a list manager. He mentioned I had a men's offer, it was a men's health offer, and it had a men's health angle. Right, everything was men, and he's like, "Oh, I'm going to run this to some of my female lists." I'm like, "Why? Why would you do that?" And he's like, "Who do you think buys most of the stuff in the home?" And you'd be surprised at the amount of conversions you could get for a men's product to a female list. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
So no, I think that's great feedback. One of the questions I have is knowing that when you have to start broad in a traffic channel, I think sometimes, especially what people are used to with like a Facebook where you can keep budget small and just hyper target, right? And then expand as you go. And it feels like Nate is a little bit reverse of that. You start broad and start narrowing it down and then scale. Is there kind of like a recommended or maybe like a range of a budget I advise people to say, hey, starting out, you should be like anticipating this is your testing budget. And if you could like tranche that based on business size, but any advice on that would be really, really helpful.
Yeah, like as much as I would like to say $1 million, this data. No, we're being very numbers oriented, mathematical, if you like, about it. So we say, first you look at the average VCTR. Sorry, you look at the average VCTR and average CPC per geo, and you work out, something that you would likely have for this particular vertical. Let's go super average. Let's say the States. For the States, if you have an average VCTR, so we're not talking about content arbitrage that goes, beyond 4, 5, 6% VCTR, and we're not talking about browser games which tend to have less than 0.1% because like it's very niche. So you'll be bidding more than $1 in the States for CPC. Let's say super average. Let's talk about health products. Let's talk about e-commerce, which would have an average VCTR of 0.5%, 1%, 1.5%, depending on the season again. Right? So you'll be looking at the CPC of 0.5, 0.55, 0.6 on mobile or desktop. But if you're talking commerce, typically it's mobile. Let's say 55. So you put this aside. Then you start thinking, okay, how many clicks do I typically need per publisher? 100 clicks. Like this is the rule of thumb because you need to see whether you have 1% conversion. You multiply it by your number of publishers. Like, do you want to test all 9,000 publishers we have? No, you don't. That's way too much. Like, do you want to test 5 or 10? That's not enough. Like, sure, on Taboola you'll get most traffic from MSN, and in the States it'll probably be BuzzFeed or CNBC or depending on the vertical again. But to average it out, you should be looking for 50 to 100 publishers. So there you go. You get 10K clicks multiplied by your average CPC, and you get a budget of 5K per month. And by per month, because again, someone running on Facebook, they're used to comparing Tuesdays with Wednesdays, and they're like, okay, how is it performing today? It's because the intent doesn't change. People are on Facebook always with the same mindset. But with news are ever changing. So you go on Bloomberg one day, and then the other day it's completely different mindset. So you need to compare Tuesdays with Tuesdays and Wednesdays with Wednesdays. And the bigger the geo, the longer the span. So in the States, it's 3 to 4 weeks. If it was UK, France, I would say maybe 2-3 weeks. But again, depends on which vertical.
That is so interesting. Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, you think about the timing of when content's consumed, you really need a larger window to really evaluate that. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that was super helpful. Thank you. Like, I think a common mistake I see, even with newbies up to experts, is they try a new traffic channel, they try a new tactic or a strategy. Oh, that didn't work. It's like, well, how much did you try? And it's usually not nearly enough time or clicks or both to really say if it worked or not. And it just wasn't like, so I think having that realistic expectation of what it takes to give it a fair test, right? And then actually kind of get some traction and can see it. Because what I always tell people, if you're going to a new traffic channel, it might not be profitable after a 5K investment, right? You might be, let's say 50% or something. But you're gonna have a pretty good idea of like, can we, I'm just throwing out random numbers. I don't mean to put it on you, but like it might be,
no, I was about to add a little bit, but
yeah. So let's say 70%, right? But it's going to be, you have a good idea of like, okay, can we get this improved either on the ad performance or our page performance to a point where it's break even or profitable at this point now, right?
usually
Or do we
it's
need to
2
go
weeks. Usually the first week is a big fat mess. The second week, this is where you start seeing the improvement. And if you see that, okay, let's say you're minus 30%, minus 40%, but improving, that means that, by week 3, you'd probably be able to optimize it and break even and go positive with week 4. But if you're continuously staying with minus 70% and it's week 2, the chances are it's not going to improve. So you drill it down. This is why you need to track different touch points across your journey. Like, what's the problem? Is it, the traffic sources are not great? Well, increase the CPC or CTR and get on the good sources. Or is it the high bounce rate? Well, tough luck. You need to work, change your landing page, or maybe work with your CTA, or maybe your offer is not compelling enough. Throw in a nicer discount, just today and just for you.
It's so really, it's that 5K is the idea of that you need to, it'll give you the data you need to know
For the States,
after a couple
yes.
weeks. Yeah. For the States, and then for smaller demos, probably less budget.
3-4K, 3-4K per campaign. That's something to be.
And I would imagine if you weren't sure if you did that, and then you're like, "What does this mean?" Right? If you maybe data's not your jam, being able to talk to a member of your team would really probably sift all that out, so that you can not only know, hey, here's the way, here's the publishers you should be shutting off, here's where to spend more. Hey, this is what we're seeing. This probably means this could be your problem. So that's going to shortcut a lot of those mysteries. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to, like you said, Andrey, it's like, Taboola is a great platform for the holistic marketer and a holistic mindset if you want the real success. And I think that's awesome. We want more marketers to have a holistic mindset.
I agree.
Changing the world one marketer at a time.
This is great. I'd love if there's any rapid fire, I guess, you've touched on some of these, but if there's any rapid fire mistakes you see that kind of people new to native make, and let's assume they're a average marketer, right? They're doing pretty well. They're not maybe the biggest scale you've got, but they've got some skin in the game. They know they've made some things work and they're trying native now. What are some common mistakes that they're making?
We'll make it even more buzzy. Give us three common mistakes. I'm not supposed to use that hand motion. Gosh darn it. Three.
Sure. Let's go for it. Are we going to get like three sentences span across?
Yeah, it will definitely get imaging over it. I'll make sound effects. I'll go every single time you do new ones. So that'll rip us inside. So number one.
The first mistake is psychological, coming with the wrong mindset. So it's not probably what you expected, not very technical, but a psychological one. Someone comes with an idea that they know everything, but they had no idea, how native works. But they're like, I know, I spend millions on Facebook. And I'm like, great. And I spent 5 years explaining people how Taboola works. So, you're an expert in your field. I'm aspiring to be an expert in my field. So let's create synergy together. I'm going to teach you, and we're going to take your resources and create something beautiful together. So it's important to come with an open mind and, be keen to learn new things, not just, come the baggage of experience. Leverage this experience 100%, but don't rely on it solely, because this would be the first psychological mistake. Now, number two, I think.
We have to get the sound effect. Got to be consistent, right?
Please, I love it. So number two, I would say a lot of people come again with the experience of, let's say, Facebook, and they say, okay, Andrey, 5K budget, fine. let's do it. And then they set it as a 5K budget and they spend it over one day. And they're like, Andrey, where are the conversions? You owe me a 5K, man. I'm like, I don't owe you anything. No, like it's very important. It's again a part of the job, being a consultant and agreeing on everything on the shore, saying, guys, 5K split equally day after day throughout this 3 to 4 weeks. So that's partially my fault if someone's doing a mistake, because regardless of how many times I need to repeat, it needs to sink in, and if it doesn't, well, I've done my job badly. So I would say, one of the mistakes is people just spending all at once and then saying, where are the conversions? Well, there won't be any conversions because you just bought a bunch of traffic that's not converting. You need to allocate it equally and see how it performs over time. And number 3, and please wait. I haven't come up
too
with-
soon. Gosh.
Number 3, I would say there's no point if something's not working. Leave it be. Like don't keep trying. Sometimes it's important to put this aside and try something new. Because if you see that, okay, like let's say I've given you all the possible benchmarks. I mean, obviously I'm not going to give you like CPAs and I'm not going to give you competitor CPCs, but I can say that's the average for the market. And let's say I've given you some benchmarks. Let's say you've done your due diligence and you've checked every single spy tool available for the market, and you've been inspired by some of the biggest spenders, and you've created the ultimate landing page, and then it suddenly doesn't convert, and you've tested everything, it just doesn't work. Put it aside, find something new. There's no point. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. There may be multiple reasons. So and we mentioned holistic approach, like we can't know all the reasons. Like let's say, I give you the product, let's say heaters in the UK. We have a bunch of guys running them. One of the first guys who started running heaters on Taboola was spending, I'm not even sure if it's a guy or someone else, like a guy, a girl, spending 80K per day for a continuous period of time. And then there were a lot of other guys spending this certain similar amounts of money on it. And you'll be like, okay, surely UK is a big market. How many heaters can you physically sell? A lot. But at some point there is ads fatigue, especially if there are so many people spending on this, on many sources. And if you were to come up with an ultimate landing page and the ultimate metrics, but you're simply not at the right, you have the right product, you have the right promotion, you have the right price tag, but it's just simply not the right place, the right time. Tough luck. Try something else. So I would say, yeah, okay. So we have a psychological approach. We have, spending all the money at once, and we have, forgetting about the 4th P, which is the place. Be more adaptive.
Yeah, be a smart quitter. You don't want to never be a quitter, but be a smart quitter about it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
that was
that definitely needs to be a shirt. Smart quitting.
Listen to Andrey. Yeah.
Yeah. Listen to Andrey.
Yeah.
Awesome. No, it was great. I enjoyed it. I'm sorry. That was my first time with sound effects on those. So next time it'll be more.
No, I think that's great. That should start as a side hobby, and who knows?
It's a voice acting career for
for 6
actually a pretty
possibly
cool career. Like if you watch these videos on YouTube, like you watch this Hollywood films and you'll see stuff breaking, exploding, and then you see that people recording this and they're using completely different things to create this sound. So I'm like,
that's crazy.
Magic. Like these guys
really
are so creative. I
also think voice actors seem like the best Hollywood job. No one knows that you're famous. You can control when they hear that you're famous, and you get to do your job in your pajamas. And now they could probably do it at home if they wanted to. Like that is the life. If I could be a Simpsons voice actor, you bet. So.
Well, Mark Hamill.
Awesome. Well, Andrey, thanks.
Mark Hamill, you can instantly recognize.
Yeah, there you go.
Joker, Luke Skywalker, or this guy from the Avatar. I don't remember, like the bad guy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before we dematerialize and just talk about cartoons, which is pretty much where all my conversations go. So I think Thomas had some one last thing.
Oh, no, I just wanted to thank you for your time, Andrey. I know it's later in the day for you out there in the UK, and you're just getting back from, probably still recovering from some jet lag from Affiliate World Asia. And we're going to see A little bit, yeah. And we're going to see some of your team out in Affiliate Summit West in Vegas. You guys are sponsoring an event we've got out there
Mhm.
for that road show, I think on January 24th. I think y'all
I'm
have some
so
tickets.
jealous. I'm so
Yeah.
jealous, guys. We'll be spending some quality time in Vegas. Unfortunately, I'm not coming because there won't be too many Europeans or Israelis there. But this time,
Yeah,
I'm very
next
much
time.
We'll,
looking
we'll
Yeah.
pour
forward to
less
seeing you,
salt on the
John.
wound for that, but for all those that will join, they'll be fantastic to get some Taboola and
Enjoy it,
ClickBank.
and you're always welcome in London.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, what a great
We'll
city
take you
too
up
in
on
the
that. I
summer
love London.
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
That's a, but we'll
Well,
include
and
links to in the show notes. We've got some new pages launching here soon. Actually, probably by the time this podcast airs, some different insights on the Taboola ClickBank, what we've got going on there, and the pre-approved whitelisted pages we've got up with y'all, and kind of those offers if you want to be promoting ClickBank offers on Taboola. But then Andre is curious, like, where can people go to learn more about yourself or Taboola? Like, where's the best place for them to go check things out?
You can go to the website, or you can reach out to me directly, or to other sales team leads or sales managers directly. I think the best start would be to do some due diligence and read some information on the website, on the forums. There's so much information available. It's not 2015 anymore. You don't need to find the scraps. There's so much info, even on YouTube. Like, we have a really cool course on Fiverr recorded for those who are just getting
oh,
started.
cool.
There are plenty of news available, like especially with the latest Yahoo deal. So start reading. There's lots of information available publicly, and then reach out. Like, reach out to me. Reach out to my colleagues. They're all amazing. I think we'll definitely can work something out together. If you need
Nice.
some
No, your
additional
team's been great to
information.
work with. Yeah.
And we're also going to be rooting for England this Saturday against the French. So you take Mbappe down. Get him. Get him. So
I'm expecting a lot of coming home under my windows, so I don't even know how to react. Should I go and join, or should I just sit quietly?
yeah, who knows? Who knows?
Well, I'll tell you what. My partner, she is a big supporter of Italy, and she's not Italian, but she is. And I was supporting England during the big game this summer, I think, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
She went to the balcony. She started screaming "Forza Italia," and I was genuinely scared for my life. I'm like, "What are you doing? What are you doing? You're gonna get us killed!"
Dangerous
I
stuff.
love it.
Dangerous stuff. It was great having you, Andre. Really appreciate the time. And
Thanks
yeah,
for
look
having
forward to seeing you in Europe, hopefully sometime in 2023.
Looking forward to it as well. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thanks, man.
Awesome. Cheers, y'all. Happy scaling. Bye bye.